I wonder if we ever keep our eyes open for signs and messages from the Lord that are delivered sometimes by unusual messengers that bring us about God's will for our lives. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Monday. In Luke chapter 22, we find the recording of Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples and his warning to them that they would be scattered and leave him. Of course, the impulsive speaker, Peter, spoke up and said, "Lord, I'm ready to go with you, both to prison or even to death." But Jesus spoke directly to him, saying, "Satan has desired to have you, Peter, that he may sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you." Then he told Peter, "I tell you, Peter, the rooster will not crow this day before you will deny that you know me 3 times. Then while Jesus is being falsely accused and tried by the Sanhedrin, Peter is outside warming his hands with a crowd that's gathered outside this great hall. And as they begin to recognize him, they accuse him of being a disciple of Christ. And of course, he denies his association with Christ, finally swears with an oath. And Luke 22:74, it says, "Then he began to curse and swear, saying, 'I do not know the man.' Immediately a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the words of Jesus, who had said to him, 'Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times.' So he went out and wept bitterly." You know, we may be a little bit like Peter sometimes, thinking that we're strong enough to overcome Satan's attacks on our lives. We don't really need God's warnings or even his protection. It was a wonderful promise that Jesus said to Peter, "Satan has desired to have you, but I have prayed for you." Isn't this a great promise that Jesus gave him? A wonderful reminder to us that Jesus knows our future and he loves us anyway, especially loving us enough to protect us sometimes from ourselves. When Peter began to deny Christ, it was probably this self-protection mechanism, thinking he would be the next one dragged in by the Sanhedrin if he wasn't careful. Unfortunately, it became so easy to deny any involvement with Christ, even to swear before this crowd that he didn't really know who Jesus was. And unfortunately, it became so easy to deny him that now, in his own mind, in his own heart, he's perhaps hardened. But when the rooster began to crow, it suddenly jolted him awake to the fact that he was denying Jesus, just as the Lord had warned him that he would. With such guilt and this amazing awakening, the Bible says he went out and wept bitterly. So God used a rooster to signal his disciples' sin and to draw him back to himself. He becomes a wonderful messenger. I don't know, sometimes I don't like the sound of a rooster. Someone said they even begin their day screaming. Maybe the rest of us feel that way. But here is the time that Jesus used the rooster to remind Peter of what he was doing and to awaken him to his own sin. Jesus even foretold this realization when he said to Peter, "And when you have returned to me, strengthen the brethren." He knew the trouble he would go through, but he also knew that Peter would come back to him. So if God can use a rooster to awaken Peter, what will he use to speak to me today? Perhaps he's going to use an animal, maybe a star in the sky or some beautiful fall tree, maybe even a preacher, to speak to us today, to remind us where we need to be with God.